Hey, everybody. Tonight we're going over chapter 11 and chapter 12, Law of the Inner Circle, Law of Empowerment. So we're going to start with the Law of the Inner Circle. When we see any incredibly gifted or successful person, it's always very tempting to believe that it's their talent alone that made them successful. And to think that is to buy into a lie, because nobody does anything great alone. Leaders never succeed alone. And a leader's potential will be determined by the people who are the closest to him or her. So what makes all the difference in the world is the inner circle that that person has in his court or her court. So if you look at any great leader, you're going to find somebody who surrounded himself with a strong inner circle. The inner circle makes somebody better than they can be alone. And this applies to your business. It applies to sports. It applies to family relationships, because in any realm of life, the people who are closest to you are going to determine your level of success. And this is not just a fun idea, guys. This is a law, meaning if you ignore it, you get the same results if you ignore the law of gravity. Like, you can pretend it's not there or that you don't see it, but you still are going to pay the consequences if you violate this. It's facts. Okay. Here's another fact. 5 years from now, you will become an average of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. And everybody does need an inner circle. It doesn't matter if you're an introvert or an extrovert, no matter how introverted you are or how much you tell yourself, I don't like people. Even you need an inner circle, because we all have the same basic human needs. We need to be loved. We need support if we're going through something difficult. And also, no single leader can do every one of these 21 laws well. And that's why you have to have a team of people, right? Or on the flip side of the same coin, if you're the type who has never met a stranger and you consider yourself to be somebody who has tons of friends, you need to know the difference between your friends and your actual inner circle. Your friends don't necessarily influence your decision making or your behavior, but your inner circle definitely does. So, question for personal reflection: who do you seek out for advice, turn to for support, and rely on to help you get things done? Those people are your inner circle. Now, we naturally tend to surround ourselves with people that either we like or people that make us feel comfortable. But we should also be striving to bring people into our inner circle who are going to push us to be better and draw us out of our comfort zones, because comfort is the enemy of progress. So I love to be around people who are better than me, or people who have the same goals I have at a bare minimum. And like, we're all striving toward the same thing. So if you're only around people who make you feel comfortable, how fast do you think you are growing? Leaders absolutely must think about how the people closest to them impact their level of effectiveness. You literally do not have the luxury of not thinking about it. So, question for you, Jules, unmute yourself. Would you say that you've been intentional about who is in your inner circle? How have you been intentional about it? And what are some things that you have done to be intentional about it?
Yes is the answer. I'm very intentional. Things I have done. I have forced myself to get to know people that I was considering integrating into my inner circle, spending time with them, whether that is forcing them to go weird business lunches with you every Tuesdays, or getting on the phone, or having your kids get together at the park, like just kind of feeling them out, because it's really important to me that my inner circle fit, that we have similar values, not that we're all the same, but that we have similar values, that I can make sure I trust them, that they're going to jive well with each other and that they're going to work well together. That's important to me, that my inner circle work well without me. I want my inner circle to be so cohesive that if I drop dead, they would literally coordinate my funeral together without me having to tell them to. They'd be like, oh, listen, no, we know this is what she'd want. This is what she'd like. She wouldn't like that. She would want that. They would step in, like they would just be in the gap for me and my family. Like if something happened to me, they are so cohesive. They could fill in so many gaps in my life and they would want to.
That's a good illustration. I love that. Pretty vivid and also slightly morbid, but
well, I've seen it in real life though. Like I've seen it. So for instance, I've seen it with other diamonds who have had tragedy strike. And you can see the ones who have strong inner circles because their business people just step in the gap. Their family is well cared for and nurtured. And man, and I'm like, okay, I want that. How do you get that? How, like for me to be willing to do that for someone, what would I have required from them first? And then am I willing to give that?
And good point.
So anyways, I do think about things like that.
So good. Yeah. And I have seen you be super intentional about this. And I know you're intentional because I also know it doesn't come natural. And I know that when I met you, your friend tank was full. Like you didn't feel like you needed more friends. And so I remember you reading this chapter and us having this discussion. And then you just always take action on anything, which is always very impressive, even if it makes you uncomfortable. And I love that about you. But yes, taking strangers that you met on Facebook out to lunch, I know that is scary. And also you don't have a need to, like, you don't feel like doing that. And that you're also probably like me, hoping they cancel on your last minute, but then they don't, you have to go. But no, now look at you.
And listen, another thing you said, how do you do that? You told me one time, you said, Christina, if I saw something in your business that was holding you back, can I share with you? And I'm like, no, but you did anyway. No, I'm just kidding. I said yes. And you said, you're always the first one out the door. And I was like, so the event's over. Like you tell me to come, I stay for the event, like I execute a great event, and then the event's over and I'm going to leave. And I'm that way at the gym. I'm that, like, when it's over, it's over. When it's time, it's time. And you said, but you don't understand, you're missing the mark. Like that's when relationships are formed. And you quoted John Maxwell, like walk slowly through the crowd. And I'm just like, all of that sounds like utter malarkey. But I started doing it. I started putting margin on both sides of the appointment or the event or whatever. And it is uncomfortable every time. And it's so funny because all of you in the inner circle will be like you have to nudge me to wake me back up, like get back in there. But things like that, just anything that the people who are good at it are doing. Like you stood around and you had questions to ask afterward. And I'm like, why does she keep asking questions? Like she's making this last longer. And then I realized that was the point. So
it's almost like that's the whole point. All right. So what have been the results of your intentionality in this area?
I mean, I feel like the results have been, I have a very solid inner circle. They could probably all name each other. And I'm very clear on who I'm willing to bring in. I just talked about this on the Ruby coaching earlier. The reason that I've not been willing to sleep on Misty's potential is because I see her as inner circle material. And it's because I'm so clear on it. I'm very clear on what that would look like.
Yep.
And so that gives me the, I don't know the word, the willingness to continue to follow up on someone's potential because I realize why my inner circle needs someone like her or like Jackie or Terry. Like I could name any of my inner circle people, but I see the need in my inner circle for that person and that trait and that characteristic or whatever. And I see what my inner circle can offer to that person. So the result of it has been I would say, a very well-rounded inner circle, very different. I have all color personalities in my inner circle now. And I mean, the red result would be success. The result has been success. When I got real clear on my inner circle is when the tide started turning in my business.
This is true. Yep. Facts.
And it's when I started securing more peace in my life. It's developing my inner circle required boundaries. After I became self-aware, it required boundaries. And it has led to, one of the results has been freedom in my life, peace in my life, because I decided that my inner circle wasn't determined for me, that I got to determine my inner circle. And so when I realized I was responsible for my inner circle, then I had to take action on that. So the result of that in my life has been some peace, because I have some boundaries, because I just decided I could pick my inner circle. It wasn't determined based off of family or proximity or location or whatever.
That's also a great point. So results are solid inner circle, also peace. Well, those are some great results, and I'm pretty sure we could nail it if we had to plan your funeral, but if you could just not die, we would really appreciate that. Any of you other duels have anything to say about this, about being intentional about your inner circle? Anything you want to add?
Yes, I have a lot to add here.
Add
Maybe
it,
not
girl,
a lot,
add it.
but as a number 2, I'm a 2 with a 3 wing. I'm all about people. And I mean, you guys know me. I'm all about unlocking potential in people and vision. And your greatest strength can always be your greatest weakness. And my weakness is I believe the best about everybody. And so it really took me a long time to realize that not everybody is right for my inner circle.
Mm.
And it's better for me to have a smaller inner circle with the right kind of people than a larger inner circle that is not a lifter, growth minded, or hungry. Because I had a lot of inner circle people who are not here today, would not grow, happy being complacent, would not do hard things, or that I was dragging. And let me tell you, I would rather you have one person in your inner circle that's hungry and has what you want, and then you wait and believe for the right people, than surrounding yourself with people far below your lid. It's just not worth it. And so creating a really rich inner circle takes discernment, and as well as intentionality. You really need to be careful of what kind of person, what qualities are you looking for, like being self-motivated. I mean, if someone's not self-motivated, God bless you, come back to me when you are, because I'd rather, spend my time with someone who's self-motivated than having to light a fire under wet wood. It does not work.
Mm-hmm.
So, I spent years of my life like that, years of my life, because I believe the best about everybody. Well, God bless them. There's a reason why they are the way they are. So, we're in this business to serve and help people, but you can't serve and help people until you help yourself, and getting around people that are going to raise you and that the same quality. So this is above and below, right? Because you have an inner circle that lifts you up, and then you're part of other people's inner circle. Be careful that you're not just dragging or taking someone because you just don't have what you want.
Mm-hmm.
Do not fill a space just because you need a warm body. I'd rather you wait until you find what you really want than just find a warm body.
That's some good preaching right there. I should just sit down and let y'all run this call. It's so good. I like this free you, Michelle. That's a great point. All right. Well, let's move along. Thank you, Christina and Michelle, for speaking up. So good. All right. So question for everybody on the call, just personal reflection. Don't answer this out loud or in the chat or anything, but just think about what are the common characteristics found in the people that you surround yourself with. Are they hard workers? Are they solution finders? Do they complain about work? Do they complain about everything? What is their outlook on life? Do they tend to see all the problems, or do they tend to see all the possibilities? Are they kind and respectful to other people? Are they gossipers? What do they value? Do they value growth? Do they value fitness? Do they value entertainment and pleasure all of the time? Are they leaders and influencers? How do they spend their time? How do they spend their money? Do they have the audacity to want to accomplish something in life that is bigger than the status quo? I mean, just think about the people you spend the most time with. What do they have in common? And if you're going to become an average of the people that you spend the most time with, Are the people that are in your circle good people to have in your inner circle? Have the people that you've chosen to spend time with enhanced your life, or have they made it more difficult? Just some things to think about. And Jules, next question for you. If somebody on this call is finding that the people in their inner circle have done more harm than good, what's your best advice on how they could change their selection process?
Well, I think it starts with setting boundaries with the current people. And that doesn't have to be these huge black and white, never going to talk to you again, but just slowly taking some steps back and then taking time to process and say, well, who am I really looking to spend my time with? You know, who are similar to me? And then really looking for those people. But I think before we can look for those people, we have to really work on ourselves, because you're going to attract who you technically are.
Yep. I love that what you said about boundaries. I think it's so important to learn this really important 2-letter word, no. Learn the word no. And then also know that you're not responsible for someone else's emotions when you say the word no. Anything else on advice or how to change your selection process?
I think that the last sentence that she said, go become the person that you wish you could attract.
Mm-hmm.
And realize the ownership you have in the inner circle that you have allowed or created. And just, I mean, it for me, when I was looking at the inner circle, I had to realize that I had already started becoming like them, and then be real clear on what it would take to change those things. So just realizing you have ownership. You didn't just accidentally end up in an inner circle. And you all have an inner circle, whether you like it or not. You are in some inner circle somewhere. So become the person that you want.
Yes, and that is a perfect segue to my next point, which is the next thing I want you guys to think about and do some reflection on is, what do you think your inner circle would say about you? So to apply this law of the inner circle and put it into practice, you have to be intentional about your relationship building, because no leader starts out with a strong inner circle. Most of the time they don't. Oftentimes, I won't say no leader, because I could name a few who started out with a strong inner circle when they started this business, but I mean, they built it. They still had to build it intentionally over the years. I had to build mine from scratch when I started my business. And you know what? I did. So success comes from not what you know, but who you know and how you present yourself to each of those people. So what would your inner circle say about you? And now let's talk about how to decide on who is going to be in your inner circle, some criteria. First of all, they need to add value in some way. They add value in some way. And there's lots of different ways to add value. Emily, at the beginning of this call, before we started recording, she just named 2 ways that her inner circle adds value to her life, because she fell down the stairs this week. And so she said the message she got from Christina was, wow, girl, you look like hell. And then the message she got from Michelle was, Emily, you're so beautiful. Okay. So we got an encourager and we got a truth teller, right? The cold, hard truth. All right. So anyways, and I think at a minimum for me, it's a requirement that my inner circle makes me laugh. I mean, that's just foundational. But anyway, so they need to add value to you in some way. And there's lots of different ways to do that. They definitely need to lift you up and not drag you down. One of the most overlooked but also best points that he makes in this chapter was, will they positively impact my other inner circle members? So I'm just going to read that because I don't want to mess this up, and it was so eloquent, and you cannot out eloquent John Maxwell. I'm a big believer in team chemistry, and if your inner circle is going to work together and function as a team, then you need to take into account how members interact. First, you want them to have a good fit with one another. Just as members of a championship basketball team have complementary skills and compatible roles, you want each inner circle member to have a place in your life where he contributes without stepping on the other's toes. Second, can you imagine if Emily had 2 inner circle people telling her she looked like hell? That would not be good, would it? But then what if she had everybody was saying she was beautiful and really she did look like hell? That also would not be good, okay? Second, you want inner circle members to make one another better, to raise one another's game. Sometimes that comes because they encourage one another. Sometimes it happens when they help one another by sharing information and wisdom. And sometimes it comes from good old friendly competition. But no matter how it happens, if they improve the ability of other team members, they also improve your leaders. That, my friends, is goals. All right. So make sure they're compatible with your other inner circle members. And for me, that just means I like them. I feel like if I like you, then my other people that are in my inner circle, they're probably also going to like you too. Number 1 criteria in determining who will be in your inner circle: do they display excellence, maturity, and good character in everything that they do? Now, if you can answer yes to this question, that's not an automatic affirmative that they should be in your inner circle. But if you cannot answer yes to that question, it is an automatic no, they should not. Okay. Next question, Jules. Great inner circles do not come together by accident. Effective leaders are continually developing current and future inner circle members. How? How do you build a great inner circle?
Well, I remember, I don't know what year it was, but it was a long time ago when you had several of us leaders together and we were all getting to know each other. And then you brought Michelle into our circle. And at first, some of us may have been a little apprehensive because she was so polished
Dignified.
and what did you say?
She was so dignified.
Yes, dignified and like from DC, like all these things that we definitely were not. And we may have been a little apprehensive, but you worked really hard to show us like the value that she would add to us and, you know, what we could add to her, still figuring out what that is a lot of days. But you worked hard to show us what we could be for each other, and then we're super intentional to put us in situations together so we got to know each other. I'm kind of surprised she ever came back after that first silver supper, whatever we had at your house, but I think
I
that's
feel like that
important.
surprise every single time we get together, and it's any new leader's first time with us. But like somehow they always want to come back.
Always.
I think it's the pigs in the blanket.
Could be. They're real good.
That's the value you add to Michelle's life. It's definitely pigs in the blanket.
But I think that's just the key, is just showing what value that we can add to each other, you know, because we all have different strengths and weaknesses. Some of us make pigs in a blanket. Some of us make olive tapenade. And we just mesh somehow. And I think that's the key, because we all are different, but we all can come together if we have those characteristics that we're looking for, you know, the honesty and the integrity, and do they make me laugh, and all of that kind of stuff. So that's kind of what I see there.
Great point. I actually did write that down. Spend extra time with them strategically, and help them get to know each other. Yes, love all that. Great points. Anything else? How to build a great inner circle?
Apparently karaoke is a great way too, because
Also a
Kayleen
great
came back
way.
after Ruby retreat, remember? And we were
Yes.
all a little nervous about that moment.
Also, she did not sing karaoke, but she just observed, and that was all she needed. She was like, sold. I'm here to stay. I'm here for life. Just kidding. All right. Any other tips on how to build a great inner circle?
Terry, what were you about to say? I saw you unmute.
I know, because my internet keeps saying unstable.
Mhm.
But I mean, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I mean, it kind of goes with what Emily was saying. I think about my inner circle before Plexus. I had a ton of friends, but they were friends who were just like me, like the same. Like I was drawn to people who had the same values or whatever. And I just didn't grow. Like, I mean, that's just what I was comfortable with. And then with Plexus, it's just kind of opened my eye. Like, I'm not looking for people exactly like me. Like I want everybody to be adding different things to our team. So it's definitely taught me that for sure. But so now that's what I'm doing. I'm looking at like, what does Jamie bring to the table? What does Laurel bring? And just, I don't know. It's just been, do y'all understand what I'm saying?
Yes. Makes so
Okay.
much sense.
Yeah. So my inner circle is completely different. So anyway, just adding that.
Love it, Terry. So proud of you. Any other tips on how to build a great inner circle? Because it's not going to happen by accident. So how do you do it?
I think you protect it at all costs. Like you do not allow drama or negativity or anything to infiltrate it at all. You protect the credibility of that inner circle and you are willing to go to bat for it. And that means you have to shut down gossip or drama or whatever. You shut it down immediately, directly, and quickly every time. You just don't permit it. And you don't permit people who tend to be that way because the truth of the matter is that is what they attract. The problem with that is that they don't usually realize that's what they are. And so you just communicate. I think the best thing you can do for an inner circle is communicate very clearly your expectations and your needs and et cetera. And then give your people the freedom in that circle to do the same thing.
Yep. Love it.
I think it just, I mean, it kind of goes, we've said this again and again, but it takes time. And like you started pairing us up on projects, like pairing us up on product calls or something to do. And then it was, okay, we're going to take a road trip. Okay, we're going to do this together. Okay, we're going to do a phone call. We're going to do this. And just creative ways to put people together makes it's got to be the foundation, because you're not just all of a sudden going to be best friends, but there's got to be stepping stones, just like Emily said about getting people together. Like I remember the first couple events Christina and I did together, and I thought, oh, she's such a powerhouse. I can't believe I'm going to be doing this with her, and but I got to know her and we clicked, and then we realized we had great chemistry, and then, hey, let's do it again. And putting people together on projects is such a great way, or even power hours or leading something, but in something that will give a common bond so that you get communication going in the right direction is so critically important.
Mm-hmm. You guys definitely sound like experts on how to cultivate team culture in your downline. These are all great tips. So I think that team culture is definitely going to be a fruit of having a strong inner circle. And I think it's a result for sure. To build the inner circle, you got to start with step 1, right? So culture would be like chapter 20. Well, not chapter 20. I mean, it ain't that far down the road. But it starts individually, right? So you do have to start drawing some people individually into your inner circle. It starts with the leader. Okay. So if you're thinking about like, how do I cultivate team culture? That is where it starts, is with you as the leader, mentoring strategically, spending time with people to mentor and develop relationships individually. And you give them extra responsibility and you place higher expectations on them and you give them credit when things go well or for a job well done. And you recognize that. And then you hold them accountable if things don't, right? And then as you do this with people individually, then you're able to communicate to the sidelines to their sidelines, this is the value this person adds to your business, and vice versa, because nobody's good at everything and everybody's good at something. And so if you as a leader have spent enough time with an individual that you want in your inner circle, then you should be able to recognize what those strengths are and the value that person brings to the table and be able to communicate it to the next person. So the result eventually would be culture, right? A strong, tight-knit culture, such as what we have. But it starts with that inner circle, and it starts with the leader connecting individually and strategically with the right people. Okay. So that is the law of the inner circle. So for homework, I want you guys to think about it and do it tonight. If you don't do it tonight, you probably won't do it. But after this call, make a list of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. Kids do not count. Can you list the value that they bring into your life? If they're bringing you down, then you might need to consider moving them out of your inner circle. And also make a list of 3 more people that you'd love to add into your inner circle and why. What contribution would they make? All right, let's go on to chapter 12, law of empowerment. Only secure leaders can give power to others. Guys, this chapter could be called the insecurity chapter. Jules, can you please raise your hand if you have ever felt insecure in your business or in your relationships? Okay, Terry, I see you raising both hands over there, girl. Put your hand down if you no longer feel any insecurities at all. All right, all of you should have your hands up. Some of y'all is rebellious. Grace, I need to consider my inner circle. Okay, so experiencing insecurity is not an indicator of if you can be successful or not. That's the whole point. But left unchecked and undealt with, it can keep you from reaching your potential because it's going to keep you from truly wanting to empower other people. Jules, what does it mean to empower others? What does that even mean?
I mean, I'll go. I mean, I think about just some things that Christina has given me to empower. Well, I didn't know she was trying to empower me. I thought she was trying to make me crazy, making me lead a call or whatever, and have a heart attack. But just her giving me something that was hard because she believed that I could do it. She believed so much and told me that she believed I can do it. And so I started to believe, and then I did it and I didn't die. And so I felt very empowered to be able to go do it again.
Yes. So giving them power. She gave you some power.
She trusted me with leading y'all.
She gave you some responsibility, gave you some power. I mean, empower, put power in somebody, right? So what does that look like? I mean, exactly what Terry just said, help them reach their potential. That's what it means to empower somebody. It really is. Be on their side. Encourage them when necessary, give them power, help them succeed, believe in them. That's very empowering when you believe in somebody. Imagine what people could do if they made the most of their gifts and opportunities, and then you help them make the most of their gifts and opportunities. That's empowering somebody. So one thing that makes a leader strong in empowering other people to reach their potential is belief in people. If you cannot see potential in other people, then you're going to struggle to do what Terry just said that Christina has done for her. You're going to struggle to give them responsibilities if you can't see their potential. So empowering leaders believe that their job is to make other people shine. It's not all about them. It's about making other people shine. And how do we do that? Well, I mean, you got to be willing to delegate. You can't just be the one who shines all of the time by yourself, right? Have you guys heard of the 80% rule? If somebody can do something 80% as well as you can, you should delegate it. People who struggle with delegating things, they will always be self-employed, but not business owners. Do you guys know the difference between the two? Self-employed people, if they don't work, they don't get paid. They have time flexibility. They don't have to answer to anybody, but if they don't work, they don't get paid. A business owner owns a system that runs with or without him. Okay. So the goal here is we want to be business owners. And if you don't know how to empower others, you will always be self-employed. Not the goal. Okay. Because if you're just thinking, if you have this mentality of, if I want it done right, I got to do it myself, or I want to be in the spotlight all the time, I'm not going to give that task away because then they get the credit or they get the recognition. That's the opposite of empowering. Okay. So look for people's greatest strengths and envision how they could leverage their strengths to achieve big things in Plexus. As a leader, one of your responsibilities is to find other good leaders. And once you find good leaders, you need to build them up. You need to give them resources. You need to give them authority. You need to give them responsibility. Sometimes it might even require troubleshooting why they're not reaching their goals. They might be feeling like they're doing all the work, but they don't understand what they're doing wrong or why they're not being successful. Sometimes empowering them means taking the time to help them figure that out. So when you build them up, give them responsibility and empower them, when they succeed, you succeed. Okay? That's so important to understand. And you would think that that would be intuitive, but it's not. It's not intuitive. Because what do you think the opposite of empowerment looks like? Jules, what do you think? If a leader is the opposite of empowering, what would that look like? What are some things they might be tempted to do?
Control freak.
Yeah, they're micromanagers, 100%. Yes. And also, they're super concerned about who's going to get the credit. Super concerned about it. Imagine what you could accomplish if you worked as hard as you could at what you're good at and you invested in people and raised them up to be stronger leaders than you are, and you didn't care who got the credit. Imagine what your paycheck would look like. Now, that being said, let me just pause here for a second and address something that I see to be a common problem. If success was only about a paycheck, then we would all be millionaires. But this business and any other business, it's about so much more than just making more money, because human beings want to feel recognized. They want to feel like they've contributed something. They want to feel like they added value. They want to feel significant. They want to feel like set apart. They want to feel unique. They want to feel like they've done something most people can't. Money alone does not make people feel this way. A big old huge paycheck does not make people feel this way. Nobody sees their paycheck, right? So people start out thinking that money will make them feel this way, but then they recruit somebody that they feel like is stronger than them, and they feel intimidated. And they don't want people to think that the only reason that they're successful is because of that one person. Or someone in a leader's downline starts getting a lot of recognition for a job well done or for amazing results that they're producing, and insecurity and not being confident in who you are and what value you add can make somebody want to shut down and feel like they can't do it. While meanwhile, making up excuses and blaming someone or something outside of themselves for their lack of success. I have seen other leaders literally try to make less of a person in their own downline because they feel insecure about themselves. They think that as that person becomes stronger or more recognized, it somehow lessens their own influence or recognition. I've also seen this happen when a downline feels threatened by the influence of their upline. Instead of welcoming the influence because it's going to grow their paycheck, they become jealous of the influence. Remember, this is not just about a paycheck. If it was just about making money and that was it, we'd all get along great all of the time. But there's so much more to it than that, because we're human beings and we have emotions and we have negative thoughts that we have to battle and work through. And Maxwell says that one of the biggest barriers to empowerment is a lack of self-worth. You can't lead a cavalry charge if you are concerned about how funny you look on a horse. You cannot be so self-conscious and insecure that you're more concerned about what people think of you than you are concerned about what's best for other people. Whether that's worrying too much what your prospect is going to think about you so you don't follow up, even though they need these products or they need this opportunity, or you won't even bring up the opportunity because you're scared of what they're going to think of you, even though they desperately need this, or it could literally change everything for them. Your own insecurity keeps you from taking action that could impact them. You're focused on yourself, or intentionally pushing someone down or allowing yourself to be shut down because somebody else is currently in the spotlight. Quit worrying so much about whether people like you or not, and worry more about whether or not somebody is reaching their potential. Whether it's in their health with our products, whether it's in their finances with our opportunity as far as your prospects are concerned, or whether it's somebody on your team who is crushing it and might even fly past you, or if it's your upline who is strong, that instead of you being inspired by them, you feel threatened by them. Quit worrying so much about whether people like you and worry about whether somebody else is reaching their potential. That goes for your sidelines too. Don't fall into a scarcity mindset thinking there's not enough to go around, that if somebody else is being successful, that takes away from how successful you can be. No, look at it and think, if they can do it, they're just proving to me that it can be done, and I can accomplish that too. Guys, dimming somebody else's light does not make your light shine brighter. The truth is, enlarging others makes you larger. And that is the law of empowerment. Empowering leaders have a strong sense of self-worth. They believe in themselves, they believe in their mission, and they believe in their people. So one thing he says in the book is that a barrier to empowerment is insecurity. So Jules, how can we guard against insecurity as we give power to other people?
That's a great question.
Do you mean like hide our own insecurities while we give power?
No, I don't mean hide it. I mean deal with it. How do we guard against it? How do we keep from falling into that pit? We're all going to be tempted by it. We all have our own insecurities, right? How do we guard ourselves against our own insecurity as we empower other people?
I think that we have to keep proper perspective and realize that our people being successful is a reflection of our own success. Like if April is being recognized by corporate and is doing a corporate call, it doesn't have to mean anything about me. It can be, oh my gosh, like look what we were like, we are creating leaders. That's the whole goal. So it's just a matter of keeping proper perspective. Yeah, I think that is number one. Number two, having a really solid inner circle. I mean, if I'm ever tempted to struggle in the area, and y'all listen, y'all sit over there and think I'm just the most confident human ever. I got thoughts, and I'm very self-aware of them. So I'll call and confess the stupid thought, and it'll usually be like, you ain't gonna believe what I thought today. It's so stupid. I ain't even gonna tell you because it's so stupid. I already fixed it, but you want me to tell you anyway? And she'll say, tell me the thought. Share no thought. I tell her a thought and she'll say, that's real stupid. You know, that ain't true. And I'm like, I know that's stupid, but let's talk more about it. And so then we talk about it, and then it's just proper perspective. So the way that you guard against it is proper perspective. If you can't give yourself proper perspective, having proper people in place who can give you perspective and giving them permission. But here's the thing, be emotionally mature enough to handle the perspective if you want them to be willing to give it.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think about when I'm insecure, which is, I mean, you know, it happens, but I think about, that's exactly what I do. I'll call Christina. I try to change my thought, and I just remind myself what is true. And if I can't remind myself what is true, I usually call somebody in my inner circle to help me through it. So
Mhm. So good. I love how this law of empowerment and inner circle are intertwining.
Mhm.
Any other tips on guarding against insecurity?
Well, and I think you've got to be rooted in truth
Mhm.
and not just not subjective truth, because that's not truth, but truth. Like, get in the word. What does the word say? Because first of all, because it doesn't matter what your thoughts are, quite frankly, is this what God says about you? Is this lining up with scripture? Are you basing your thoughts on truth or on something else? Because we all have the negative thoughts. I mean, this really takes digging into your thought life. We all have negative thoughts, but knowing what to do with them is the key. So you've got to be rooted in truth and do the mind work.
So good. Yep. Love that. So what I put is have a strong sense of self-worth. For me, my self-worth comes from knowing who I belong to. It's not really about who I am. It's about whose I am. That gives me worth. And so if you're, just like Michelle said, it's truth. It's being rooted and grounded in the truth. So guarding against insecurity the only way to combat it is to have a strong sense of self-worth. And you have to stop caring so much about what other people think. And that really can be a choice. That really can just be a decision. All right. Personal reflection questions. How would you characterize yourself in the area of self-worth? Are you confident? Do you believe that you have value? Christina's over there like, check. I see your thoughts but through your face. Do you operate from an assumption that you have positive things to offer people? And if you struggle with confidence, you're going to have a hard time with the law of empowerment. So one of the first things that you can do to build confidence, if that's something that you struggle with, is you need to learn how to add value to yourself so that you can add value to others. So I'll recommend a couple of books here that you can start with. They're both by Uncle John. Becoming a Person of Influence by John Maxwell, 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth by John Maxwell. Those two books. That's where I would start. Learn how to add value to yourself so that you always have something of value to add to others. All right. You can't give to others what you don't have. So adding value to yourself, that should be something you do every day. All right. So did y'all read about the example of Henry Ford in the book? Thinking about this whole issue of insecurity. Do you think that he was just after a bigger paycheck? I mean, clearly he cared about a whole lot more than just making more money. So what do you think was motivating this outlandish behavior besides just making money? Jules, what you guys think?
Arrogance and ego.
What?
Arrogance and ego.
Yeah, so like recognition, probably. Like he wanted the accomplishment. He wanted to be famous for his work, right? And it was definitely pride, for sure. It was about way more than a paycheck, because he could have figured out he could have just made a few changes and made a whole lot of money, but he was way more concerned about his pride than his paycheck. Okay, he says that the number one enemy of empowerment is the fear of losing what we have. So, Jules, what might a leader fear losing in Plexus if they empower someone else?
Oh, I can answer that.
Well, their influence a lot of times with their team, with just people looking in.
Yep.
If they empower somebody and they step up, like really fulfill that role, they can fear being seen as less than,
Yep.
or their influence there.
Yes, you nailed it.
Yeah, and second to that, their own personal sense of achievement. I think we were talking about this trophy earlier, so I pulled it out. And the year that I was Pride, where I was not empowering people, I got the top 10 enrollers for convention contest or something. And so to slow down to empower humans and develop leaders might mean I have to give up that recognition, because that's not the most important thing. The most important thing is not me being the top enroller. The most important thing for me is being the top rank advanced person, or like the people who have the most rank advancement. That's what I would actually like to see. So being willing to give that up. So sometimes giving up short-term thinking or short-term success for big picture thinking.
Yeah, and it might be true that somebody else gets the spotlight for some things, and that's okay. But here's the thing. If you keep empowering others, people figure out that you are clearly leading people well, and then they'll want to know how you're doing that.
I think you're a perfect example of that.
Exactly.
Because like, think
Yep.
about this. Like, I got to talk on the stage in Mexico. Michelle got, I mean,
Exactly.
so many people on your team are being spotlighted, and people are now going, not that Michelle's great or Christina's great, like they're all starting to look up like, wait a minute. The comment on Brittany's are,
How did this happen?
how we get on Brittany's team? How we get on that Brittany team? So it absolutely just a clear example of that.
Well, y'all are sweet. That means a lot. I appreciate it. There's been a lot of times where a lot of what I do is behind the scenes. Nobody sees half of the work that I do, y'all. And I've never been a top recruiter. Not that I haven't wanted to be, because I totally would be if that was my strength. But a lot of what I'm good at, nobody sees. But they can see the fruit. They can see the fruit now, but guess how many years that took? Now, what if I had been so insecure to empower Christina or Michelle to be on the stage that because I wanted to be on the stage? Where would that have gotten me? Probably nowhere.
Well, you said yesterday on our coffee talk in the morning, you said you got to empower, like the fruit of empowering people is one day they stand on the stage in front of your entire company and say words that you know for a fact you said to them, and they get the credit for it. And I'm thinking, I think she's talking about me. I feel real confident she's talking about me. And listen, I'm okay with that.
That was not a jab. That's
Not
true
a
across
jab.
the board.
It's true. But that made me laugh because I was like, yeah, I want that too. That's good. Yeah.
And then you just nobody knows but you, but that's okay. But see, here's the thing. Nobody would care anything about any of that if it was only about a paycheck. Okay. That's really the whole point, is if it was just about making money, then all these insecurities would mean nothing. But because we have emotions and things, these insecurities, like if you let it really could hold you back from making the money you want to make. And like I said, y'all, I have literally seen leaders try to hold back their downline because they're scared that people are going to think their downline passed them, or that they're successful because their downline is strong, or you know what I mean? Like they're scared they're going to lose influence. And it has nothing to do with, like, even though their paycheck is growing, right? See how it's not really logical, but it's very emotional, and it happens. Okay. So you can guard against it by just being grounded in truth, having a strong sense of self-worth, getting proper perspective when necessary. All right, I'm gonna speed through the rest of this. Another barrier to empowerment is resistance to change. Here's a truth you have to embrace. Change is the price of progress. And leaders must, it's a non-negotiable, you're gonna have to embrace change. And since one of the indicators of whether or not someone is actually a leader or not is if they can create positive change, then the most effective leaders not only embrace change, they're actually agents of change. I'd love for you guys in the chat to just start sharing name drop. Who comes to mind when you think of agents for change in Plexus? Who comes to mind? I mean, I can tell you who comes to mind for me: Melissa Eichenhorst, Rebecca Folks. There's quite a few. Sheila Medina, Robin Sullivan. I mean, there's a lot. They have great ideas. They have influence because they've produced results. They're also on the advisory board. I mean, leaders have to embrace change and also become agents for change. You cannot resist change. Okay. Oh, Jessica Heffley. Yes. That's a good one. Sonia. Okay. Leading well is not about enriching yourself. It's about empowering other people. And I think about when I read a book, I'm reading it with a leadership bias, and I'm reading it through the lens of how is this going to help me help someone? And I also had this epiphany this week because I picked up a book called The Glute Lab. It's a fitness book because this year I would like to make my fitness a priority because I just haven't since I got pregnant with Molly. And I realized that this book is for me. And I feel really guilty about reading it because I don't normally read books to help myself. I normally read books so that I can help others. And I'm going to be straight with you. I really think that's a huge component of why I've been successful, because I want to empower other people. I see people's potential. I want them to have freedom. I want them to be confident and be free and be everything that God has created them to be. And I don't want anything to hold them back. And sometimes things do hold people back. And I feel like it's my mission to uncover what that is. And that takes hard work and it takes time. So only empowered people are going to be the ones to reach their potential. So think about what that means for your team. If only empowered people reach their potential, then that means that only the people on your team who are empowered are going to reach their potential. So as a leader, go empower them. Go do what it takes to empower your people. And we are out of time. Good night, everybody. See y'all next week. Oh, don't see y'all next week. I will be in Phoenix next week. I'll see you the following week. We'll pick up then. Good night.